Alright, so the PlayStation 5 has been out for nearly 6 months at the time of recording this, and they're still sold out everywhere. And with consoles still being heavily scalped, there's really no telling when they'll be available. But the truth is, you're not really missing out on a lot yet. So in this video, I'm going to tell you a few things I think you should know about the console, but ultimately I'm going to tell you why I think you should wait before purchasing one. Again, I've included some timestamps below so you can go ahead and skip around where you like, but let's go ahead and jump into the hardware and design. I really sat on the fence with this design for a while, but it's grown on me over time and I don't really notice it in my entertainment center anymore. Admittedly, at first I really didn't know how this thing made it off the concept page. When I think of new next-gen hardware, I think of elegant and modern designs, not this. But it's definitely recognizable. Regardless if you like the design or not, a lot of you are going to be stuck showing this thing off because there aren't too many entertainment centers built with this type of hardware in mind. I mean, saying that this console is large is an understatement. So the PS5 measures in at 15.4 by 10.2 inches. And you can compare that to the PS4 Pro, which I thought was big as well, at 12.9 by 11.6 inches. And even when you look at Microsoft's new hardware, the Xbox Series X, it's only 5.9 by 11.8 inches. I would assume that the size had a lot to do with the thermals and getting airflow to pass through this thing properly, but it's huge. And because of its odd shape, if you want to lay it down horizontally, you're going to need to use the stand that comes in the box. And one great thing that the hardware has going for it is that it's dead quiet. Yes, there is a fan, and yes, there is fan noise, but in comparison to the PS4 fan noise, it's nothing. The fan noise reduction was a very much needed change. Another thing to note is that the SSD inside is fast, but it fills up very quickly. It's not the instant load time that you're probably hoping for, but it's fast. And you're still probably going to want to store your games externally, which was just made possible recently by a software update. You're only getting 667 gigabytes of usable storage on the SSD, and you can imagine how large some of these games and AAA titles are going to get. And those games will eat that space up in no time. But let's stop talking about the console itself for just a second and talk about this controller. If you're a fan of the older style PlayStation controllers, this one should feel very familiar, just with better ergonomics. And if you're an Xbox player, I would assume that you would also like this controller, but you know, controllers are all really about personal preference.
So here we are taking a look at a hands-on with the new Avenger Reflex. So this ain't it, Chief!
Believe it or not, personally, I would actually like it if it were a bit heavier. It only weighs 9.87 ounces, and you can compare that to the Nintendo Switch Pro controller, which comes in at 14.1 ounces. And I'm actually pretty surprised that it's lighter than the Pro controller considering how much tech it packs inside of it. And speaking of, the tech in this controller is just as impressive as everyone says it is. The haptic feedback and adaptive triggers really have to be experienced to understand. They're very hard to explain, but they have the potential to add an unbelievable amount of immersion into your gameplay. But for now, the only game that takes advantage of this is Astro's Playroom. I put the quotes around game because it's demo disc material at best. Now I'd imagine it's quite a bit more difficult to design a game around this controller considering how many things that it does. And with all these cross-platform titles, I really don't expect to see too many of them take advantage of this controller specifically. I just couldn't imagine pushing a game release date back just to design a better controller experience. But maybe I'm wrong. Now the game that people probably will and should pick up at launch is Spider-Man Miles Morales, and it's a great game. In my opinion, it has an underrated soundtrack, and it really does show off the visual capabilities of the PlayStation 5. But much like Astro's Playroom was designed to show off the controller, I feel like Miles Morales was designed just for that, just to show off the new hardware. As beautiful as it is, it's relatively short for a full-price game, and it's also available in PlayStation 4. You of course won't get all of the enhanced graphics, but you'll still be able to play the game. And to be honest, that's really the story throughout the entire selection currently. Most games that are available on PlayStation 5 are also available on PlayStation 4, and some don't even offer you any additional content for buying the next-gen version. Surprisingly, Sony is actually allowing us to upgrade a lot of these PlayStation 4 versions to PlayStation 5 versions when you're able to get your hands on one. And when I stop and think about it, the games that I've been playing the most are a lot of older remastered games like Tony Hawk Pro Skater, which does not need next-gen hardware at all to run. And to me, that really just sums up the PlayStation 5 so far. At the end of everything great about it, there's a potential deal breaker. We are sitting on this incredible piece of hardware without the content to support it. So while we wait on games like God of War Ragnarok to come down the pipeline, we're stuck playing Grand Theft Auto 5 online for the 8th year in a row, and Madden, which is its own disaster. I mean, take a look at this top games list that IGN put out recently. As expected, Miles Morales will be number 1, but take a look at number 4. The free demo game is on the top games list. That right there should be enough to show you that there is a struggle for content on this thing, at least right now. So personally, here's how I see it. If this is the first PlayStation that you're going to own, you're in for a treat. The library of games that you'll be getting access to will last you a lifetime, and the hardware will be very capable for a long time. But if you're the owner of a working PlayStation 4 right now, the value of a PlayStation 5 comes down exponentially. You've lived with that fan noise long enough, I don't think that you're getting enough to justify the purchase right now. And keep in mind, inevitably at some point, these special edition consoles will have to come out eventually. And maybe along with that in the future, we'll even get a slimmer version. Honestly, it's just a thought, but that's my opinion. Alright, that wraps things up for this one. Hopefully you found some value in this video. If you did, I would appreciate if you left a like before you left. You won't find any benchmarks on this channel anytime soon, but hopefully you find some practical information that you can take back and apply to your own circumstance. If that sounds like something you're into, please go ahead and stick around and subscribe, and hopefully I will catch you in the next one. Later.